Welcome to the Citrus TV studios for this Valentine's Day edition of Q's Countdown. I'm your host, Max Chadwick, alongside my wonderful analysts and Valentines, Will Scott and Mason
I got you a gift, actually, Max.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Oh, okay. Well, welcome inside the Citrus TV studios for Q's Countdown. I'm your host, Max Chadwick, alongside Jaron May and Cam McCauley. Syracuse hasn't won since September, dropping 3 straight along the way. Head coach Gino Babers thinks the problem is that they're trying too hard. Wait, what?
They jump, they move. They make a mental mistake that is, they've done it right 1,000 times.
I'm joined again by my analysts, Jaron May and Cam McCauley. Guys, don't try too hard on the show, right? Finally, maybe the only positive takeaway from the loss was the play of Joe Girard. He put up a career-high 30 points, keeping the Orange afloat with an injured Elijah Hughes and a struggling Buddy Boeheim. It was only the 3rd time in SU history that a freshman scored 30 points in a game. The other 2? Carmelo Anthony and Pearl Washington. That's a pretty good list to be included in. However, JG3 actually struggled from 3, making only 1 of his 10 from behind the arc. He said it was, quote, one of the worst 30 points you could have. While Joe Girard wasn't happy with the way he played, his coach certainly was pleased with the way he stepped up.
When you lose your best player, one of the 3 or 4 best players.
Certainly not great, guys. Well, Syracuse came into the season ranked number 16. Fast forward 8 weeks, and the Orange sit at 3-5, unlikely to make a bowl game. Where did it all go wrong? Don't worry, we've got Detective May and Detective McCauley on the case.
Next year's going to be special. This year, NIT. Well, come here.
You just gotta believe it.
Listen,
I'm the same. I like to handling things like kumbaya right now on Q's Countdown. Well, for Syracuse to make the tournament, they likely have to upset Florida State on Saturday. Coming up after the break, we'll tell you whether or not the Orange will do just that. Predictions coming up on Q's Countdown. Don't go anywhere. Oh, and I gotta ask you, what's the best rivalry in college sports?
Come on, it's an easy question. Duke UNC.
Michigan, Ohio State.
Duke UNC easily. You got to go college basketball.
I'm going to go with that too, because you know why? No matter how good or how bad they are, they always seem to produce incredible games. And on the 100th anniversary, it was no different. The 7th-ranked Blue Devils took down the struggling Tar Heels 98-96 in overtime on Saturday. Trey Jones hit a buzzer-beating jumper in regulation to send it to OT. Then, Wendell Moore had a buzzer-beater put back to win it in extra time. This game wasn't without its controversy, as there was supposedly a missed foul call on Wendell Moore late in overtime on an inbounds. Owen, what were your thoughts on that play?
This is the biggest game of the year. Syracuse and Duke in the Carrier Dome. Max Chadwick alongside Owen Valentine. We'll be on the double overtime until midnight tonight, breaking down the game. First, little pregame preview. And Owen, last year in the Dome, Duke had a superstar freshman big man who wore number 1. He didn't play, and his name was Zion Williamson. Of course, we all know who he is now. This year, they also have a superstar freshman big man who wears number 1, and he goes by the name of Vernon Carey.
Vernon Carey. What are you looking forward to with the Red River rivalry?
Oh, this is going to be a classic Big 12 game. What do I mean by that? Absolutely no defense will be played in this one. Jalen Hurts and Sam Ehlinger are 2 of the top quarterbacks in the country, 2 Heisman candidates. This is a big game for not only the Big 12 and the rest of the season for these 2 teams, but a big game for the candidacies of Jalen Hurts and Sam Ehlinger. Whoever wins this game has a great shot at taking home college football's prestigious award. And whichever defense honestly allows fewer than 40 points will win this game, in my opinion. Oh, let's move from one of college football's best rivalries to one of college football's best teams. Or are they? The defending national champion Clemson Tigers have not looked as dominant this season, struggling to a 1-point victory over UNC, who's 2-3 on the season. Owen, should we give the Tigers the benefit of the doubt and keep them at number 2? So you say that defense wins championships, right?
Sure.
Not anymore. That's an old saying for an old style of football. In reality, if your offense can't put up points, you won't get very far. And my oh my, can these Buckeyes put up points? They are 3rd in the country in scoring, averaging over 52 points per game. If you've got an awesome quarterback like they do in Justin Fields, you're in an awesome spot. And Justin Fields is, like I said, unreal quarterback. This is a major reason why they have such a great chance at making that national championship run.
But next on the docket it's a little quarterback battle. We're talking offensive battles. We've got 2 Heisman candidates in Joe Burrow and Jalen Hurts. Who do you take?
I'm taking Joe Burrow right now. He is the Heisman Trophy winner if I had to pick right now. Look, Oklahoma has produced 2 straight Heismans at quarterback in Baker Mayfield and Kyler Murray. You got to think Does that Lincoln Riley system play a part here? And does that make Jalen Hurts look a little bit better than what he really is? LSU is always a team that is a quarterback away from being a national championship contender. They've got that quarterback this year in Joe Burrow. They've always struggled with that quarterback, and now they've got one in Joe Burrow. So that is all talent, in my opinion. This could be a national championship team because of Joe Burrow.
What do you think the NCAA should do, if anything?
I think they should do whatever they are advised to do. I don't think they should say, you know what, let's just take a chance on it. You cannot take a chance with this coronavirus. I think you should have the player safety, the coach's safety, the fans' safety at your top of your priority list. Even if it means no fans at March Madness, would be so weird. But if it means that everyone is safe, that's what's most important.
Yeah, exactly.
We have to move on to the major story going down in Lexington. Kentucky guard Ashton Hagans sat out Saturday's game against Florida due to personal reasons. After the game, Coach Calipari told reporters that Hagans told him he was in, quote, a bad way. Calipari cited the immense pressure every Kentucky player is under between classes, practice, and the fact that every Kentucky game is treated like it's a Super Bowl in Lexington. While Hagans sat out Saturday, Calipari expects him to be back on Friday for the SEC quarterfinals, but he said the decision is ultimately up to Hagans. Owen, if he does sit out for an extended period of time, how big of an impact is this for the Wildcats? Ashton Hagans is 20 years old and he's being treated like a professional athlete. He's under so much pressure right now. Mental health is a serious issue. It's not like a physical bodily injury where you know the timetable for recovery. You don't know the timetable for recovery. I want Ashton Hagans to get his mind right and then hopefully he can get back for Kentucky as soon as possible. But make sure his mind is right because you never know with this. Calipari is playing this perfectly, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I mean, the last week or two, things kind of went south. Baylor drops 3 of its last 5. What's gone wrong for the Bears?
A lot has gone wrong for these Bears, and they're not shooting well right now. They lost to TCU, who is not a good team at all. The last thing you want to be in March is cold.
Yeah.
And losing 3 of your last 5 is exactly that. Not only are they cold, but losing 3 of your last 5 probably pushes them from a 1 seed to a 2 seed right now. However, this all sounds bad. I think they're fine. I still think this is a Final Four caliber team. That defense for the Bears is legit.
They're going to make it once they get that win that they're obviously going to get.
So, Mason, I hate to do this, but I'm going to kiss up to the judge right now. My next pick.
God, come on.
Owen,
Pander.
Rich what? Rich what?
Richmond.
Oh,
Richmond
come on.
is my 3rd team
Pander
right
pick.
now. 40th.
Syracuse falls to Georgetown 89-79 to fall to 5-5 on the season. Max Chadwick alongside Owen Valentine here on the double overtime on 88.3 FM WAER. And Owen, we mentioned how Georgetown is reeling right now as a team. Like you mentioned, they lost 4 players. 2 of them, there's allegations going around about them. The 2 of them just transferred. James Akinjo, who's one of their top players, is just gone. And you look at this team now, and Owen, they have 7 scholarship players. So you think about that and you think, okay, wait a minute. 7 scholarship players. You're playing an ACC team in Syracuse. For Syracuse to win, they can really exploit this by doing something. And Owen, what is that one thing they should be doing?
Getting to the foul line, drawing fouls, and being able to get to the line and get Georgetown in foul trouble. And the ironic thing is, it wasn't Georgetown in foul trouble. It was Syracuse.
Nope, not at all. Syracuse attempted 9 free throws in this game. Mac McClung had more free throws than Syracuse did. He attempted 10, and Allen as well for Georgetown attempted 11. Georgetown attempted 31 free throws in this game. So, Owen, you really look at this. Syracuse could have had such an opportunity to get Georgetown in foul trouble, get the walk-ons in the game, and then dominate those walk-ons. They didn't do it. They settled for threes the whole game. They attempted 32 threes. They made 14 of them, so not bad shooting the ball, but 32 threes, only attempted 30 shots inside of the arc. I mean, this is a team that really didn't attack the paint like they could have, get Georgetown in foul trouble, and get those walk-ons in the game.
Yeah, they simply didn't do it. It's a situation that kind of reminds me of that 2017-2018 season for Syracuse when just everyone was seemingly injured, and you've got walk-on Braden Bayer getting minutes in the NCAA tournament, playing Sweet 16 minutes in big games, and Syracuse was able to get through that. But when you look at it this time around, they're trying to exploit another team in a similar situation, not necessarily injured, but because of other, mix-ups in terms of the roster. And when you look at the final foul counts for Georgetown, 1 with 3, 2 with 4, but it was not necessarily a big deal when your 7 picks up his 4th foul with a couple of minutes to go and Georgetown up 10. In terms of the first half, no one in foul trouble.
Yep.
No one in foul trouble. Pickett's got 3, but he's not necessarily someone that you're that worried about. Only 6 team fouls from Georgetown in the first half, and it was you got to get to the line. When you look at a team and you look at a box score and you see that Syracuse is attempting more threes than 2-point field goals, it's something that is very concerning.
Absolutely.
And it has to do with the forward play that has really struggled, and it has to do with a reliance. You said a reliance on the hot hand. It's a reliance on the 3-ball. I think we knew coming into the season that Syracuse was going to live and die by the 3, but I think even this is a bit too much. You can't be surpassing that 50-50 margin. It really should not even be close to that 50-50 margin. But for you to be so heavily reliant on the 3 means that when it's not going in, you're not going to be competitive in games. And today, they lose by 10, even after shooting at a 44% clip.
Yeah, Syracuse loses by 10, 89-79 to Georgetown. Calling it 315-443. 2011. We're a little short-handed in the studio right now, so we'll get to your calls during the break, but I promise we will get to your calls. And yeah, Owen, you mentioned it. Georgetown only had 14 fouls. Syracuse had 24 with Buddy Boeheim and Mark Dolezaj both fouling out, and Barama Sidibe had 4 fouls as well. It's really Georgetown had the perfect strategy that Syracuse should have had, in that they got Syracuse in foul trouble. You saw Jesse Edwards play significant minutes, which is something we haven't seen in a while. You saw a guy like maybe Howard Washington, Quincy Guerrier. They played more minutes as well, so they really forced Syracuse to go into their bench more because they were getting in foul trouble, and Georgetown didn't really have to do that. Only, like you mentioned, 2 players who had 4 fouls. If you made both of them foul out, then all of a sudden, Georgetown, their 5 on the floor are all their scholarship players that they have. Then if you make 2 of them foul out like they made Syracuse did, then they wouldn't have anyone to sub in who was on a scholarship. So like we keep mentioning, Syracuse had a golden opportunity to get players in the game who weren't good enough for a scholarship, and they didn't do that. And because of that, Georgetown was able to keep in their best players and keep dominating Syracuse to an 89-79 victory. All right, so you heard enough from Owen and I about this game. Why don't we hear, though, from the head coach, Jim Boeheim, and what he had to say after his team's 10-point loss to Georgetown in D.C. That's coming up after the break. You're listening to Double Overtime on the original home of the Orange. We usually preview the next Syracuse men's basketball or men's lacrosse game. As of right now, there is no next Syracuse men's basketball or men's lacrosse game. In fact, the entire NCAA has suspended operations in addition to the NBA, MLB, NHL, and other professional sports leagues. This is all due to the coronavirus pandemic, which has infected over 130,000 people around the world with close to 5,000 deaths. Congressional Dr. Brian Moynihan expects up to 150 million Americans to contract the virus, which is more than 45% of the U.S. population. Of course, this is so much bigger than sports. We are going to try to look at this pandemic through an athletic lens. And guys, I'm your host, Max Chadwick. Look, it's been a wild 48 hours, but it's time for all of us to come together. On behalf of everyone at Citrus TV, our thoughts and prayers go out to everyone impacted by the virus. Stay safe, hug a loved one, and have a great night.